Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Exxon Live.
We're big. How'd that happen?
That's the big screen.
How do you get to do that? You got to teach me how to do that.
That's the fancy screen.
You got to teach me how to do that.
It's all the fancy toys, the
Wait
electronics.
a second. Make sure I don't. Okay. Now everybody can see me real good.
Any boogers?
No, I'm good.
So the question of the day is this, and this is a question we talk about quite a bit. It's, does a title make you a leader?
No.
No.
Matter of fact, some of the best leaders I've ever met in my life never had one direct report. They had not one person reported to them, but they were the people that were the true leaders in the organization.
Truth.
Yep.
And this is a challenge. So if you are senior VP of XYZ,
That's a big title.
if you are the executive director, managing partner, CEO, president,
Man.
El Presidente.
I'm telling you, those are big titles.
Those are great titles, but look, your people don't follow a title, and leadership is something that requires trust.
Yeah, I mean, if people don't trust you, if they don't feel like that you have their back, to use just to bring it down to a real popular, I guess, term. If you don't have their back, if they don't feel that, you're done.
Well, it was interesting. We were meeting with a friend yesterday who's a former executive at a large energy company here in Oklahoma. Yep. And he made a comment about his relationship with his CEO at the time. And the one thing he said, and Phil and I both chuckled, is, dude, I would have jumped on a bomb for that guy. And you know why? Because we were having a meeting one day, and I was just a director. I was just a minion in this huge energy conglomerate. And he looked at me and he goes, "You've got this project. I don't care what anybody else says. I've got your back. Go do the right thing."
Yeah, he specifically said, "I don't care what vice president, I don't care what senior vice president calls you. It's your project, and I've got you covered."
And let me tell you something. If you're a leader, there's a couple things you know. You need to be humble, approachable, and credible to be a leader, not a manager. You need to be authentic, and you need to take care of your people.
Yeah.
And you serve them. You do not order them around. You are not their boss. You are their servant leader who finds ways to get barriers out of their way so they can do the things you need them to do for your team to be successful.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the big things is that we believe in our society that it is all about position. It is all about title, and nothing's farther from the truth. I think back to the great leaders I've known, and listen, there's great leaders out there that have titles. We're not saying that doesn't exist. What we're saying is it doesn't require that to be a great leader.
Well, sorry.
No, and all I was going to say is that the best leader I personally know never supervised one person in their entire career. But there was not one decision made in that organization that everybody wasn't coming and asking him what he thought. There wasn't when the rest of the team was uncomfortable about something, they didn't go talk to their supervisor. They went talk to him. What do you think? So if you don't think that person's affecting the overall outcome of the organization, you're kidding yourself. And every company has somebody like this. Every company. I don't care how big, how small. They're in every organization.
If you are a manager, if you are a senior VP of X, if you are a CEO or president, I challenge you in the next week to quietly walk around your organization and see if you know who your people are going to when there's a problem.
Yeah.
See if you know who the informal leaders are. See if you know who is driving the organization. Because when you find those people and you empower them, goodness gracious.
Good things happen.
Great things happen.
Yeah, and I think the way you empower them is you support them. Now, listen, there's another side to this. There's also people in an organization that aren't there for good that have people's ear, right? They're a cancer. So you got to pay attention to your organization and make sure you know which category they fall in. You don't want to encourage somebody that's a cancer, right? You're going to have to deal with that, and it's going to have to be head on and very direct, and that's going to be a painful process. But it's a process that you have to go through to fix something like that. So good and bad, more times than not good, But there are those times where people have people's ear that it's not a good thing. It's a negative thing.
Well, they're a cancer. They're splitting the organization, and just like any cancer, you remedy it as fast as you can because it will impact the entire culture of your organization.
Yeah, 100%.
So here's the next thing I want to talk about. So if you are a large company and you're developing a corporate leadership strategy, and it consists of hiring highly motivational speakers to solve your leadership problems, the old guy sitting here is going to tell you it's fun and it's interesting, but that's not going to solve your problem.
Correct.
And I'm going to challenge you to take a focused interest in the development of your teammates and your fellow leaders by putting them in rooms, asking them tough questions, by giving them tools on a regular basis and assessments to show them where their blind spots are, because every leader has blind spots.
100%. We've all got them. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter how long you've been walking this earth. We've all got blind spots. We've all got spots,
100%.
right? That are just things that aren't our strengths. And you know, the great leaders, they understand that. They know what they are, and they create systems and quite frank, many times other people to help them get through that. You know, there's not the perfect executive. There's not the perfect salesperson. There's not the perfect admin person, the perfect operations person. That person doesn't exist. Everybody has spots. Everybody has blind spots.
And with that, and with the blind spot discussion, if you're not recognizing those blind spots and helping each other out, you're hurting your organization.
Big time.
Big time. I mean, there is nothing more important than professional development for everybody in the company all of the time, right? And you can do that through conversations. You can do that through mentorship. You can do that through training events. You can do that through motivational speakers on occasion to show them different ways to do things. But let's get serious about building strong companies. Let's get serious about building strong teams and empowering our teammates to do great things. And let's get serious about the reality of what's going on around you. Stop making excuses for your people. Start helping them reach their full potential. You know, we talked about cross-selling and upselling last week. You want to see a great sales team, a sales leader, they're setting the example for their teammates on how to cross-sell and how to upsell. At the lowest level, you go to companies where you have your cleaning staff. They see things in your organization. If you spend time and talk to them, believe it or not, they're leaders in your organization.
Sure
they know what's happening and what isn't, and they're having conversations with people.
Well, my wife's a career educator, is retired now, but you go ask her who knows what's really going on in the school. She'll tell you the janitors.
100%.
I mean, they do. I mean, you know, and again, I've told this story before. My grandfather was a janitor and had over maintenance for the public school system where I grew up in, and there was nothing. I could get away with anything, I thought. The truth is, I get away with nothing because Grandpa always found out about it, right? I may have fooled my parents. They didn't know, but Grandpa knew.
Grandpa didn't rat you out?
No, Grandpa was cool.
He loved
Yeah,
you.
he took care of it.
He knew what Dad would do.
It was addressed, believe me. but he didn't throw me under the bus. But I think that the point is that don't get caught up in this BS about it's a title or it's a position that makes you a leader. It just isn't. Doesn't make you a leader. It doesn't make you important. And that's the other thing. I got to say this. And it's probably because of what my grandpa did growing up, but I don't think there's anybody more important than anybody else. I think we all are equals. We all serve a role, no matter what that role is. And I truly believe that. And I think that that's something that we've lost also. I think we discard great wisdom and great knowledge because they don't have a certain title behind them. Especially if you're a new manager in an organization, you know, we saw this in the military.
Yep.
A young junior grade officer, the smart ones went and found an NCO day one.
Yes, we did.
And said, please mentor me.
Please don't let me step on myself.
Yeah, please help me from looking like an idiot, right? I mean, every one of them had that experience. There's not one that was a great officer that didn't have that senior NCO, non-commissioned officer that they went to for counsel, guidance, and that mentored them. They didn't exist. What was the name of yours? I guarantee
there was
you had
two.
a few.
There was Master Sergeant Kurtulis, Senior Master Sergeant Kurtulis, and Senior Master Sergeant Brown. And their whole sole purpose in life when I was the accounting and finance officer at a base up north was not to let Evans mess up anything. and Colonel Frazier told me that when he put me in the position. He goes, "You're too young to be in this job, but you're all I got.
Yep.
So you're it.
You're it.
Those two are your bumpers. They're going to keep you out of jail. If they tell you to do something, it's coming from me. Any questions?"
Yeah.
No, sir. And those two guys totally took care of me.
Mine was Sergeant Ryan, Master Sergeant Ryan. I mean, you know, and then Tech Sergeant Kirkpatrick played a big role in my world as well. But you know, those kind of people matter. I mean, they matter. What Matt? I guarantee you, Matt's got some.
My
wisdom.
wife is more important than me.
That's true.
And then the best leaders emerge. That's all good.
They do.
And I prefer that people discover that I own a company. Otherwise, I tell them I work there.
That's exactly. Matt does.
No, I believe
Matt
that, Matt. And
But-
that is absolutely 100% on the mark, Matt.
But I think, and I'm glad Matt's with us. We always appreciate you being here, Matty. But, you know, I think, you know, Matt and I, we grew up in the same hometown. Both had dads that were hardworking men
Yep.
that went out, and they were both independent business owners. But they worked so hard their whole lives, you know. And I think that's part of the reason. When you grew up in Eureka, Kansas, where everybody knew everybody and you were friends with everybody, there were no social classes in Eureka, Kansas. Everybody was friends.
How many people were in Eureka, Kansas?
Oh, when we grew up, probably 3,500, you know, 4,000, or close to it, between 35 and 4,000.
So 2 grades at one of the Edmond Public Schools.
Well, my graduating class, Matt and I graduated together. We met early. We were born 11 days apart.
Yep.
And we graduated high school together. So we've spent a few days together. Not to mention we were each other's closest kid neighbors our age, so we grew up playing together. But I told you this, Matt and I were going to build the greatest that could have died that day. But
Yeah, could have died a lot of days, Phil.
But yeah,
We
we
do.
could. And then, hey, Matt, you remember the walnut fights and the hedge apple fights in the big red barn behind your house with Leonard and his big brother Mike? But anyway, we had all these great moments as kids. But I think what it was is you learned that there was nobody any more important than the other person. I mean, that was how we grew up. We were very fortunate in that.
It's a blessing.
It's a blessing. But I think there's
And the Bottle Rocket Wars.
the bottle rocket.
Bottle Rocket, you can't. Amen. That was the best growing up. Can't
absolutely
do
the
that
best.
anymore, kids. It's not safe.
I've told people this a million times. I guess in a roundabout way, this has something to do with leadership. I wouldn't trade my childhood with anybody. Wouldn't trade my childhood with anybody I've ever met. And I hope everybody feels that way, right? But man, we had a special childhood. But we got to see leadership at all different levels, right?
Different
Matt
ages.
knows my grandpa. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. You know, he whistled everywhere he went. I asked him when I was older, I said, "Why are you always whistling?" He says, "That way you dummies will know I'm coming, so you'll quit doing what you're doing." So, but you know, there's countless great
wisdom in
examples.
that.
Yeah, there's countless great examples of people that we all have that we can look back on, and that we took nuggets from, that we learned from. Right? Many of them had no titles. Many of them had nothing that would say, "Look at me, look at me." You know, they were just good, solid human beings that taught you things. And if you're one of those people that had that, you're fortunate. But you can
blessed,
create,
yeah.
but you can create that for people within your organizations. And that's the point of this morning's conversation, is that create that in your organization. Allow that to be something that happens.
Create an organization filled with trust.
Yeah.
Trust your people to do their job. Give them the tools they need. Help them get to where they want to be. And if you do, you're going to have an amazing organization that does amazing things, incredible things.
Matt just mentioned Dutch Schwartz. It was my neighbor. He was Matt and I's neighbor. He lived across the street. He's where you went if you needed air in your tire on your bicycle. He worked for the school district. He worked with my grandfather, actually. And this guy was basically an engineer. I don't think he had an engineering degree, but he was, Matt, you're an engineer. Dutch was just this incredibly wise, talented man that could literally do everything. And like Matt said, he knew everything. And he had such a good spirit about him. He was just he was a giving human being. Yep. You know, but man, Dutch Schwartz. Wow, Matt, thanks for saying that name. That's a big deal. Dutch. I mean, literally, if you were a kid in our neighborhood and you had a low bike tire, there was an alley. You'd pull in the back alley. His shop was in the back behind his house, and you would just whip it right back there, roll it up. And if Dutch, I'd say, Dutch, can I get some air? Yep. He'd come out and give you air in your tire, take a look at things. If something needed to be tightened, he'd tighten it for you. I mean, he was just one of the true great men in my life and in Matt's life. He touched a lot of kids' lives.
Unassuming leader.
Yeah, just an unassuming leader, but he was without question a leader through and through. Man, Matt, I'm sitting there, I'm getting emotional thinking about Dutch. That's a cool thing. Thank you for sharing that. What does he say?
He had the squirrels trying to eat from his hand. Sounds
Yes,
like
he
my grandpa.
did.
My
Yes,
grandpa
he
Gabby.
did.
He had a squirrel that did that when growing up. No.
Matt, okay, I don't know if Matt knows this about me. Dave tells you because he's with me every day. I don't have the memory I once had.
Too many headshots.
And so Matt's bringing back all these great. I completely forgot about the squirrels, but he's right. It was incredible. Wow, that's amazing. I love it.
All right, we've kind of
Went down memory lane.
down memory lane for a second, but I challenge you to lead with purpose, be humble, approachable, and credible, and build a team understanding who the real leaders are.
And look for those people. They're right in front of you. They're everywhere we go. But don't look at a title to find them. Just pay attention. They will show themselves. You'll know who they are.
All right, with that, Dave and Phil this week, we are out of here.